Do you feel that in a time when we are more connected than ever, we are drifting away from real human connection, especially to ourselves? I do. Hi, I'm Leticia Latino, and I want to invite you to join me and my very inspiring guests in exploring ways to reconnect to your essence, to your definite purpose, to what makes you tick. Are you ready?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Back to Basics, Reconnecting to the Essence of You. I have a very, very special guest today because it's somebody I deeply admire, also a personal friend, Bernard Borghei. He is a telecom infrastructure executive, in my view, a legend, an entrepreneur, and a dear friend, again, whose life story is compelling as his career. Bernard is the founder, president, and CEO of Connected Infra Group and has spent more than 30 years helping build and scale some of the most successful companies in wireless infrastructure, including Vertical Bridge and Global Tower Partners. If you're in telecom, you're already saying wow. But today, I want to make this episode about his journey. I know he was on the podcast of a dear friend, Carrie Charles, Let's Get Digital, and he speaks all about his vision with CIG and what he's set to do next. But I know he's also an extremely creative individual, and I know he has a very special project, music related, that we talk about for hours. And having been married to a musician, I could not resist the temptation to say, Bernard, would you be on Back to Basics? And he said yes. So hello, Bernard, and welcome.
Hi, Leticia. Thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm very excited about this one because I know a lot of people in our ecosystem are going to enjoy it, because every time we all see each other at a telecom show, yes, we share a little bit about our personal stuff, but we mostly talk telecom. And I know we get a lot of that. And this is a more intimate journey. I know we connect also on the fact that you're from Iran, I'm from Venezuela, and we have a shared trauma in terms of where our countries have been. And I know there's a lot of wisdom in that experience that I'm excited to hear. So why don't we start there at the very beginning? So tell us about when your young years, where you were born, your family life. How was your family life? And I'm always very interested in thinking, what did you dream about becoming when you were a child?
Okay, great. Interesting that you and I have, unfortunately, some pain and agony in common. I was born in Tehran, Iran. My family, like a lot of Iranian diaspora, was close to the family of the Shah, the king, and so when the revolution happened, the Islamic Revolution happened, we were on the wrong side of the equation. And, we had to flee to save our lives. And, I lost cousins, I lost uncles, and my parents lost everything they had worked for, homes, savings, companies, and all that stuff, land. And so in a matter of a year and a half, we went from having a great life in a country that was very advanced, especially in the Middle East for back then, the biggest ally of the U.S. In the Middle East, and down to having no home, to the point that the Revolutionary Guard, the Gestapos that everybody in the news hears today about the crimes they're committing against humanity, came to our house, confiscated our furniture, and they even took all my Star Wars toys. They told me couldn't even hold on to my toys. So basically, my parents, just picked up my two older brothers and I and said, we just got to find a way to survive and stay alive and see if we can get out.
How old were you at this point?
I was 12 years old when the whole thing started. By the time I was 13, we all had fled the country in different ways. My brothers had fled through different borders, and my parents and I, came to Germany. My dad had some business friends in Germany that, provided us some accommodation. And, the hostage taking situation had just been going, sort of wrapping up. People in the West didn't know how to deal with the Iranians who were running away from the Islamists because they didn't know who was who. And so we were caught in the middle. Basically, people with no land, no safety, no community. Nobody knew what to do. And this is where like miracles happen, I have to say, and I'm not trying to get political at all, but you have to be fair and you have to say the truth. We survived because Ronald Reagan came in and said, the Iranian diaspora that's running away from the Islamists are the people who were our allies during the Shah. We cannot leave them and abandon them to be picked up and killed by the Islamists. So we got to let them in. So he directed the State Department and the U.S. Immigration Services to start issuing political asylees to people like my family and I. So finally, at age 13, I came here through traveling from Germany to Turkey to Greece and finally making it to Philadelphia, where my dad had some friends and some family, and we all managed to sort of reunite as a family, in Philadelphia. And so just imagine you're 12 and 13 years old, you're roaming around Europe on your own. Your parents are somewhere else, your brothers are somewhere else. We're all trying to just get to the US. You got a regime in Iran that's trying to like pick us off and destroy us and kill us, and it was very sort of traumatizing, to be honest with you. I think it's things mentally I have always carried with me because it's not your brain is not wired to put up with that type of a situation, especially at that young age. But we were fortunate enough. We are still part of the fortunate group that managed to come to what I consider to be still the greatest country on earth, the United States. I talk to my American friends about what's happening these days, and people go back and forth, and I tell them it's okay to have difference of political opinion, but do not ever give up on what this country is about, because this is still the greatest country on earth. And, I showed at age 13, I got to be honest with you, 5 of us showed up here with about $5,000 in our pocket. That's all.
Wow.
All we had. And we had to go find our way to get jobs, make ends meet, go to school, and going to college was not easy because as political asylees, we weren't allowed to get loans or anything. So, my parents started working to pay for, life, and my brothers and I started working in restaurants and pizza shops to pay our tuition. So the three of us finished college, probably not having ever taken a single day of spring day break or going to a single basketball game. I went to Villanova. My brothers went to Temple University, great sports town. We never had the money. We never had the time, because I would basically go to school, 7:30 until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then rush to a restaurant to work so I could have money to pay for my tuition. And so did my brothers. But we were still thankful to be here and have an opportunity to build a future, right? And so that was the introduction to life. Sometimes when I look back at it, all the different companies, all the challenges, people joke with me, why do you want another startup? Why go through all of that? And I sort of look back and I'm like, I don't think I've ever had an episode in my life where I wasn't challenged somehow. And I probably wouldn't know what to do with myself if I wasn't. Right? I welcome the challenge. It's okay. I've been through far worse when I was younger. Fortunately graduated from Villanova University's engineering school. I do have to give thanks to the Villanova administration back then. I went to them, as life was becoming more expensive and school was becoming more expensive. I went to them and I said, look, you can hold on to my degree until I pay you, but I don't have the money to pay you full time. Just let me take my courses and finish my degree and I'll pay you. And being a fantastic Catholic university, rooted in the Augustinian culture that they truly practice, which is all about love, community, and education. The president of the school said, look, we're familiar with what the Iranian diaspora is going through. We'll let you take your courses and just pay as you can. And they held up their end of the bargain. They allowed me to stay in the program part-time. I finished my degree and I paid every penny of it too, and moved on from there. So it was hard. It was stressful. But I think as a young kid, I was also like so excited about the fact that we actually ended up in the US and there was a path to a future. And I really seized on that despite all the sadness, all the losses of our family losses and loved ones and everything else, at least we were in a country that hardworking immigrants like us, as long as we followed the rules, we were legal and we integrated into society, then this country opened up its arms and said, chase your dream. And a lot of so that's what
I love that. I love that, and it brings perspective because knowing you for how you also handle business, you all this, and of course I'm learning a lot of details today that I didn't know, which is what I hope others that know you also do. But it makes all sense because how you approach people, how you approach problems is very different, and that it's evident in when you have had hardship in the early years. Any problem that seems impossible to many, for people that have had to deal with like leaving your country, at 12, they want to take your Star Wars tour, like your whole life was disrupted and had to start all over again. That stays with you forever in how you approach situations, how you treat people, and I love the fact that you also give credit to where credit's due, because that's also important. Each one of us thinks that if we do one good thing for somebody else, it's going to be lost. It's not lost because that one good deed can mean the world to that person you're being good to, and I love the fact that you highlight that. So because there's so much to talk, but I'm curious, what's the one maybe favorite childhood memory from your country, or the one thing that when you envision your country free, or what you remember that you wish was back to what you remember?
There's obviously when you're only 12 years old, there's limited stuff that you remember, all the family times or like the vacations. But there's one thing I've always shared with a lot of my friends, because people really didn't know about Iran back in the 70s. And so it was really a secular democratic society. I'm not saying the Shah was the best. Every ruler has ups and downs and flaws or whatever. That's I think, nature of politics and power. But some rulers do their best for their countries, some rulers don't. And I think the Shah was doing his best despite some of his flaws. Well, one thing I remember was, and I would like to make sure that our friends and colleagues and your listeners understand is, Iran back then was about 35, 40 million people. It's about 90 million now. And it was the only country that had Christian Persians, Muslim Persians, and Jewish Persians, right? It didn't matter what your religion was. We were all Persians and Iranians, right? So when the whole conflict between Palestine and Israel was going on, Iran was the one country that basically established early on the first relationship with Israel in the Middle East, had a great relationship with the US. But the Shah was also, maybe even at times heavy-handed on making sure that the Arab countries did not get out of line about their attitude towards the state of Israel, because we had plenty of Persian Jews, and he felt that as descendants of Cyrus the Great, we were the ones to free the Jewish people from slavery. We were not going to allow Middle East to fall back into that kind of a environment again. So one thing I remember vividly, and when I tell this story to my friends, they don't believe it. The Israelis created their first national soccer team, right? Mm-hmm. But nobody in the Middle East would play with them because of all the conflict. Except Iran. The Shah would invite them to come to Tehran and play, and the Iranian team would go there. I remember my dad, God bless his soul, had plenty of Persian Jewish friends. And I remember one Friday afternoon, because in the Middle East, the day off is Friday. That's our weekend. The Israeli team came to the 100,000-seat stadium in Tehran to play the Iranian team. And our house was full of just Persians, but there were Jewish Persians and there were us and, other people. And back then, my dad and his friends' favorite drink was Black Label Johnny Walker. Mm-hmm. And we all sat there, we watched that game, having fun. Nobody cared who was from where and what religion. Mm-hmm. It was two teams having a great game. The game ended up actually 2-2, which perhaps was the best thing. But I remember how my dad and his friends were joking about, the game, this player, that player, right? You fast forward that 20 years later, 30 years later, and you see what is happening in that region now. And I sit back there and I'm like, in the mid-70s, we got along with, the Israelis and the Persians. Mm-hmm. We had no issues culturally or religiously. How did the whole region go so badly backwards for us to be in that situation? And really, this is where I guess 99% of us Persians outside of Iran were so hopeful that the current campaign would lead to some monumental changes to bring some peace and stability back into the region. So my collective good memories of Iran is that Christmas time, I would see Christmas trees all over Tehran. Okay, and everybody would be in a great mood. The Persian New Year, which is the first day of spring, everybody would be in a great mood. The Jewish holidays would come and my dad would say, my friends are off today because it's the Jewish holidays. And people don't know, the synagogue in Tehran has a Torah in it that's over 600 years old. It's protected by the United Nations now. We were a society that really faith did not cause any conflict. Mm-hmm. Iranians working for the country, right? And that's what I remember. And that's really my hope, that we did it in the 70s. We should be able to do it again and hopefully stabilize that region and bring peace and harmony for everybody involved. So that's what I remember more than anything else.
Well, that's more than I bargained for. I knew, because I know how deep your thoughts are, but that's a very powerful thought in terms of faith, be a unifier, not a divider, no matter what your faith at the end of the day. And when you look at the basic, it's that not that many, that almost all the faith and spiritual practices or beliefs are based on being good to others. Like if we go back to that one sentence. So thank you for that. That's amazing. So I'm not gonna go into, your telecom journey can fill out 5 episodes. All right. So there's a very good episode again by Carrie, Let's Get Digital, where Bernard goes in detail as to how you use multiple exits. You are as successful as one can imagine on the telecom side. People know you just raised $1 billion from Peppertree for your new venture. So for anybody that's not familiar with you, now knows how much I'm downplaying like this. This is not to be downplayed, but there's so much substance. But in all your successful, from this humble beginnings to not humble, like let's say turmoiled, disrupted beginnings, to like getting into engineering school, to getting by way of coincidence or divine intervention into telecom. What would you say were the defining ingredients of achieving success as you did with the different companies you helped found and exit?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. Individually, personally, within you, it's really the ambition. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be able to sort of achieve as much as I could. The other thing is that as an immigrant, when you go through that type of a revolution and loss and everything, and you become an adult and you get married and you start having kids, the biggest fear you have is that you don't want your children to go through what you went through, right? So you work really hard every day not to let your family down, right? There's nothing wrong with working at all, no matter what work you do. I think any type of ethical work is respectable. But I remember driving to work when I was an engineer, RF engineer, and manager, director, VP, and every day I told myself, I want my kids to be able to go to school and be able to go to a football game or a basketball game and not have to worry about working in a pizza shop like I did. Mm-hmm. That drove me, and I think it drove my brothers to do whatever we could to showcase our talent, to learn from the people who were our managers and bosses back then, learn from their experiences, listen to their advice, and really do what we could to create a career path that gave us a standard of living where my kids could have a normal life. Because I'm fortunate to be here. I'm fortunate to have landed in this country and have had the opportunities to achieve. But the reality of it is I did not have any teenage years. My teenage years were work, go to school, and make sure you don't get caught by the Islamists to get killed, right? That's basically what it was. We were constantly in a survival mode. Right. So I went to my first college party when I was, I think, a semester away from graduating.
Oh, wow.
So because it just was what our life was about. So the motivation to want to take care of your family, the motivation to want to be successful, to provide a stable life for your family was key in driving us. And then there are a lot of people that come into your life at different points in life. And that makes the journey possible. I have been fortunate enough to work with some of the best people in this industry, to learn from them, to gain their confidence, to show my talents and skills to them, and for them to show their confidence in me and giving me opportunities. So I don't believe anybody does it alone. You never do it alone. Mm-hmm. So you have to be grateful for people who give you those opportunities. But the starting point has to start within you. You have to want to be somebody in order to show others and for others to say, you know what, he's hungry enough for me to give him an opportunity. So there's a lot that goes into it. But I think that's, in a summary, is fortunate case of meeting a lot of great people and having the hunger and the fire in me for them to say, all right, I'll give you a shot. Show me what you got.
I love it. And I mean, in all the interviews now, many hunger, the wanting and the hungerness and eagerness and gratefulness gone repeatedly in all those that have achieved incredible success without losing themselves in the process, which I think it's at the end of the day, the hope for this podcast, as the listeners know, is how you stay in the basics, back to basics, and stay aligned with who you truly are. So in that note, that's a special segue, because when we met, when you were kind enough to invite me to a beautiful Christmas party with the amazing food that your wife, who's incredible, is amazing chef, amazing cook, did, you showed me your music room, and I didn't know. I'm like, how didn't I don't know about this? And this is something that is recurring, and it's incredible the amount of engineers that also have, including my husband, this passion and love for music and guitars or any type of instrument. So I learned that you are a passionate, you're a guitar player, and now you also write songs. So
music for me was therapy. I couldn't, as I just said, I wasn't like able to go out. I didn't have the means to go out to sports games or anything like that, as we just discussed. So I needed something to help me unwind from really the difficult realities of life at age 12 and 13, right? Mm-hmm. And like any other teenager, I was growing up idolizing musicians, right? How good is it? How cool was it to play the guitar like Dave Gilmour was playing Pink Floyd, or to sing a song like, I don't know, a Barry Gibb song or a Supertramp, all the 70s bands, the Eagles, all that stuff. And I remember I was sitting back there telling myself, maybe if I were born in America, I would have had that opportunity, right? So the dream of being able to write music sort of was a way for me to get away from the harsh reality of life. And I remember I talked to my parents, and financially things weren't easy for us. And I said, my dad was always a musician. He was a great musician in Tehran as well. So he always welcomed it. And I told my dad, do you mind if I get a guitar? And he's like, well, you sure you want a guitar or not a violin or a classic thing? I'm like, yeah, I think I want a guitar. And I'm left-handed. So it is extremely difficult to get left-handed guitars. I still to this date, there's only one store that I go to in Paris, France, that has left-handed guitars of all types. I've had so many left-handed guitar orders placed here in the US, and they reject me because they don't want to change the whole manufacturing thing.
Oh my God.
If they wanted to, and if they decide to build me a guitar, they give me no color choices, no pickup choice. They want to give me like the simplest thing. So back then I was like, I wanted to play the guitar, and, I go with my dad to get my first guitar. And of course, 5 stores into it, downtown Philadelphia on 8th Street and Market, we find a left-handed guitar. And as luck would have it, it would be $450, $500 more expensive than the same guitar as a right-handed, right?
Of course.
But my dad wasn't, he always did everything that he could for us. So he bought me my first Fender. And then I started working extra hours in pizza shops so I could pay for $20 an hour lessons to learn how to play the guitar. And it became my way of, unwinding and getting away from what was going on. So I would sit in the corner of my room when I had time, and I would play, and I practice. And the first song, there were 2 songs I learned within the first 6 months. Maybe I'm slow. I should have learned it faster. Within the first 6 months of taking lessons, I learned 2 songs. The first one was Let It Be by the Beatles. And the second one is only a song that very few people may remember. It was a top 10 song by the Bee Gees called New York Mining Disaster, 1942. It's a very acoustic-driven kind of a song. Simple chords. And those were the 2 songs I learned. I can tell you, Leticia, when I learned to play those songs beginning to end, it was as if like I had learned how to fly. Like it just took me to a different world. From there, I started writing. I was like, let me put my own thoughts together. And I look back, I still have some of the versions of what I wrote in the 80s. And it was such simple English because I was this immigrant kid learning how to speak English and all that stuff. I'm like, I'm glad none of those got recorded. But it was the beginning of writing songs. It was the creativity. You were mentioning engineers, right? I think one thing that all engineers have is this curiosity and creativity. Add to it that I'm left-handed. They say left-handed people are even more creative, right? So
Oh boy.
I kept writing. I kept writing. I kept writing. And every time I wrote, the melody got a bit better. The chord progression got a bit better. And eventually it got to a point where after I graduated, I had enough money to buy my own 4-track system. We're talking about analog days, get a couple of guitar pickups. And I hooked up with a friend of mine in Villanova who was an excellent piano player, and he had the whole Microsoft software. So he heard some of my songs. He's like, look, we should record. And I was like, let's do it, because it's a way to get away from things. So Saturdays and Sundays, I would go to his house and we would record the songs that I wrote and learn how to arrange, learn how to, do multi-tracks. And I would sit there for hours practicing a solo guitar just to make sure I got it right. And I ended up with like 22 songs copyrighted in the Library of Congress. And
Wow.
I sent my demo tapes around, and I got interviewed by Polygram, which back then was a major recording company. And the A&R guy, there was no video calls or anything, right? The A&R guy called my home line, is like, I think you should come to New York. I want to see you. So I went there with my brother because I was in Philly. My brother was like, you can't just take the train to New York. I'll go along with you. And I'm sitting in the office, and this is bittersweet. It's like he comes out and he looks for me and he tells his assistant, where's this guy? And the assistant says, he's right there. And he looks at me, he's like, oh, come in. And I'm like, that's weird. So I go in, and he plays my song and he's like, so this is you? I'm like, well, of course. He stopped the song. He's like, okay, I got to be honest with you. This is the MTV age, right? He's like, I love your voice. I like your songs a lot, but I got to be honest with you. I'm sorry if this is going to be harsh. I'm like, go ahead. He points to my face and he's like, I can't sell this face to the MTV generation because I wasn't blonde and blue hair.
Yeah, you were not the cookie cutter type.
Exactly. I wasn't an MTV guy. Like I wasn't Poison or anything like. And he's like, I can't do it. And look, 6-7 years later, all the Latino music started coming out. And by that time, I was.
Yeah, it's the timing, as they say.
So he basically told me the truth. He's like, I can't, you cannot be a rock star.
Oh boy.
So I remember going back to Philly, and my dad said, how do you go? And I said, well, the guy liked my music, but he just told me I had the wrong look for it. And he's like, well, maybe now you can focus on your engineering career. Which was okay. I'm not complaining. It's done well, but I never lost the passion. So I have continued to play. I've continued to write. And I've continued to record on the weekends. I still record on the weekends. I have a producer here that I work with, an excellent teacher as well. He still corrects my guitar techniques at times, which I love because I think you always have to learn in order to keep your mind going. And we actually just finished a song. I hadn't recorded for a long time in a studio. I was always recording my demos. He encouraged me to get back in the studio. And so I went there 3 months ago, just the weekends, because obviously Connected Infra keeps me more than busy. And so we finally finished the song, and he's taken it on to put it on distribution list on Apple and Spotify and all the other stuff. And I'm told that the single will be released this Friday on the 29th. So we'll see how everything will go. Maybe people will listen to the song and they never want to talk to me again.
No, I doubt it. I doubt it because I had a little sneak peek, and this is why I say, Bernard, we need to do this right when the song is going to drop, because I think, as with everything, it's all about timing. And like back then, maybe that's how destiny had it, that you needed to be successful in your career to then, now have fun, and you never know. You never know where this is. But besides the music being great, I mean, can you share the title of the song?
Yeah, so the song is called Breaking My Allegiance. And, I want to put it out there. When you listen to it, people are going to, have their own interpretations of it. That's the chance you take or risk you take when you put a song out, I guess. But it's not it's a song that, based on my experiences of the revolution and what the Islamists did to, Iran and what's happening around the world, it's the song that stands up to weaponization of faith. I'm not an atheist. I have strong faith in my life. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made it through all the difficulties I've been through. So my faith is important to me. But the lyrics are designed to say enough of using faith and religion to do all the wrong things and cover it. And that's why I'm saying, if that's what your religion is, then I'm breaking my allegiance, because I don't believe that's faith. So hopefully people will see it that way as well. But that's what the song is called. I wrote the song melody, the vocals, and I do the lead guitar, obviously, on it. And then my producer Blake helps with the piano and acoustic and electric rhythm guitar. We'll see how the song does. But it's interesting. I've never been in this position to have formally released a single, so we see how it goes.
I know it's exciting, and of course, it would be the link to the iTunes or where you can purchase the song will be on the show notes. But I think it's inspiring that people say, "Well, yeah, I did it when I was younger. I was told this, and then that's it." The fact that you have kept going with the music, you had never really given up. Yes, you go, I'm sure, through waves where you touch the guitar more times than other, but it stayed with you. Yeah. And the fact that right now you say, well, I never been at this stage, where now it's almost like you're giving it another go. And that to me is very exciting, because it means that it's something that's true to you, that you still embrace and that you still showcase. And I'm sure now more than ever, even if the story is about your experience in Iran, and you and I have talked about this, knowing what my own country has been through, I know there's a lot that I will take as like if it was me thinking or saying it, because the similarities of human experience as it relates to oppression, to dictatorship, to these crazy regimes is very similar. And also a wake-up call into what we can lose if we don't engage with, people say, I don't vote because, what to vote for. And I always say, this is why Venezuela got into the situation it got, because people that, were educated, knew what was going on, stopped voting and became very complacent, and then we lost our freedom that way. And so to be engaged with what's happening is super important. So it's a good reminder, even for countries that do have freedom and are not in that situation.
Absolutely. Look, you and I have experienced it. Democracy, it's very precious. Democracy is fragile, and maintaining democracy requires hard work and compromise every day. So when people say, I don't vote, to me, that complacency is how democracy goes away. You don't always win. You don't always get your way. But I think democracy is where compromise comes into play. And so you cannot give up on democracy. You cannot give up on your country. My kids were born here, Bryn Mawr Hospital, outside of Philadelphia. This is home, right? We're not going to give up on our country because maybe there are times that policies aren't always aligned with what we want. And there are times that the policies are aligned with what we think. Regardless to that situation, we all have to really realize what we have. There are people literally dying in the streets of Tehran just so they can go out with their girlfriend and have a cup of coffee, right? You cannot take this for granted. So, when I hear from my American friends their frustration with either side of the politics, and I'm a registered independent, so I've always been looking at the candidate, not just the party. But when I hear the frustrations from my friends left and right, I always tell them, I'm like, just remember what it would be like if you or your son or your daughter or your wife could not just go out and sit at a cafe to have a cup of coffee with somebody else, or just express your opinion about something, because that's why people are getting killed around the world. So you better stay in the game. You better care. You better realize how great this land is. And you better realize that the brighter future is only ahead of us if all of us continue to care and work together for it rather than giving up on it. So vote your conscience, stay involved, do the right thing for the society and for the greater good, and good will prevail.
That's a great wisdom, Bernard. And I know that a lot of people, I don't know if this happened to you or not, but sometimes people tell me, I know you're not from here, but it's like I have to hide my true roots to try to fit in and to try to let people forget that I'm an immigrant, right? But because people right now, they speak about immigrants and it's like they lump everybody on the same boat. And I think you are a great reminder of the opportunity as a legislation such an asylum gave your family, and then how you took it and just augmented that and created value for the country. So I always tell people same thing, like remember, like when you're criticizing this or that, you're kind of criticizing the path I had into the U.S. So
absolutely. Look, I believe the country has the right to enforce a balanced, fair, humane immigration policy. I don't support an open door policy for just anybody to come in. I absolutely get it. So I think the immigration debate that we should have control about who comes in and how they behave here, it's the right debate to be had. But I remember what my parents told me and my brothers. They're like, if you want to be successful here, you got to integrate, learn the culture, and follow the rules, right? I think there are certain groups of people, and this may not sound right, but you know me, I always say the truth about how I think. I think there are some people who come to the US and they say, I'm chasing a better life, but the moment they get here, they don't want to learn the language. They don't want to follow the rules. They don't want to integrate, and they start criticizing, oh, Americans this, American that. Well, look, then why did you come here? I came here. I was grateful for being here, and I integrated. I learned the language. I went to school. I paid my taxes. I didn't cut corners. I followed the rules. Immigration told me you have to be an asylee and you have to behave. After that, I'll consider and give you a green card. I did that. That was another 5 years. You got to be a green card holder. You got to behave. Did that. After that, you apply for citizenship. You pass your exam and you behave. You pay your taxes. You follow the rules. You're a good citizen. You contribute to the society. If you do those things, I don't think there's a single American that's going to look at you and say, why are you here? I think people get upset about immigration when other people who come here don't appreciate what the country is giving them. So I've never had to hide the fact that I'm an immigrant. I look nothing but it. But yeah, there were times it was difficult to tell people you're from Iran because not everybody had the same sort of information or education about the process. And, those are difficult conversations. But at the end of the day, the way I look at it is follow the country's rules, respect the culture, integrate, contribute what you can to make it better, and you'll be okay. If you want to cut corners, you want to be illegal, and you don't want to respect what this society has to offer, then don't come here.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree. Great advice and great reminder. And it's the same thing I always say. So, I mean, this has been amazing. Of course, I could keep talking, but I think we want to leave the audience with that curiosity to go check out your song "Breaking My Allegiance." I am sure that this is the beginning. Now that you are going into this official process, probably I'm very curious about that song that got you to New York. I'm sure that if you remaster it and repurpose it, probably still has legs in it. If you got that call back then. My last call, Bernard, and you've shared so much wisdom. I know music makes you tick. Is there anything else that we haven't discussed that maybe you want to share with the audience, or if you want to share what else makes you tick in those moments where you really feel disconnected with your true essence?
Family. I would not have been where I am without having a strong foundation of family. Adversity brings you closer to each other. My brothers and I went through a hell of a time. My parents gave up a lot to make sure that my brothers and I could sort of focus on education. And as we became adults and established our own families, we've shared the stories, we've shared the struggles with our children, with our wives. And I am fortunate enough that I feel like in a way I was in this cocoon. I had great parents and great older brothers that supported me. And then I got handed off to probably the best wife that I could have ever imagined. I relocated from Philadelphia. I had to go to London. First, I ended up in Dublin working for Western Wireless International. And I went to London working for WFI, running Europe, Middle East, and Africa for them. And then came back to Philly, went back to DC, and then moved to Florida, where we started our tower companies. None of that would have been possible if I didn't have a supportive wife who said, go focus on your work. I take care of the house and the kids and everything, right? Mm-hmm. I'm eternally grateful, honestly, because I could focus on what I needed to do outside, knowing that I had an equally strong-minded, loving partner in my wife who took care of everything in the house. And so, yeah, you can look, money doesn't bring happiness. It makes things possible. I'm not going to lie about it. You can buy a toy here and there. You can go on a vacation that you always dreamed about, but it doesn't take stress away. It doesn't take difficulties of everyday life necessarily away. Life's always going to be challenging. There's always, when you're a parent, you have other challenges. So family is where it's important. Staying healthy. That's the only two things I pray for, actually. Keep us healthy, keep my family and myself together. Because you can have all the money in the world, but if you're alone, what's the point? So that's what I would say, keeps me centered, keeps me focused. The fact that there's nothing more important than my family.
Well, thank you for that. I think that's why people now understand why you're a great role model in the industry, because a lot of people may be successful, but they don't have the family you have, the values you have, just the wisdom you like to share. I vouch for it because we've known each other for a long time, and I say in an industry where not everybody gives you a meeting or really takes you seriously, you always have done that for those following the footsteps, for the women in the industry. I have to say that's also very important to highlight, at least for me. So for that, I'm grateful, Bernard, and I'm just excited to hear what people that know you and those that don't, but to have showcased this incredible, surprising, and powerful side of you. And I hope you all enjoy Bernard's song. The link is going to be in the show notes. Go check it out. And until a new episode of Back to Basics. Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you for inviting me. Really enjoyed it.
You've been listening to Back to Basics. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. If you haven't yet, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on Apple Podcast or any of your favorite streaming platforms. This is the best gift you can give us. Join me next week for another Back to Basics conversation. And if you want to find out about other exciting things I'm working on, visit leticialatino.com. Thank you, and until the next time.